Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Shad-ban. This is our first ever video. This is Chud Bundy, joined by the one and only Reginald Coveridge. Today we're going to be talking about the giants, which is a conspiracy theory which has been going all around the internet for the last 10 or 20 years. And today we're just going to go through our notes and we're just going to steam in and just talk about it. So if we've got enough stuff, we might even do a part 2 and see how we get on with that. So, I mean, what's your spin on the giants then, Steve?
Well, I'm sticking...
Chud. Just start again.
I got Roberts.
Just start again. Fuck's sake.
So basically, I'm just looking at giants of the American continent. So I'm trying to stick to that. Plenty of stuff, to be honest, has been absolutely covered up by a known
Smithsonian.
Historical.
That's right. We're going to name you and shame you because we don't care. That's why our channel's called Shad-ban, because we know where we're heading, people. We don't care, mate.
So yeah, apparently there was two races of giants in the Americas, found by Spanish conquistadors, many other people who had visited there before Christopher Columbus, which were at war with each other. Eventually, one destroyed the other, and basically, and then the next target was humans. So
okay, all right. What target? The target of who?
The target of the giants was the humans.
Okay.
So, the red-haired giants destroyed the black-haired giants. So the red-haired giants were eating humans, basically.
Okay.
So after obviously they destroyed this other race of giants, apparently the Car. Oh, that's the name of the red-haired giants. They're called the Car.
Okay.
Were killed by the Paiute people. Which entombed them in rock.
A Native American
tribe.
Okay.
Paiutes or Paiute, whatever they want to pronounce it as. But they were entombed in the rocks, in the mountains and caves. Possibly Lovelock Cave, not sure.
Yeah, I've seen that in a documentary. Yeah, that came up.
But yeah, they chased the last of the red-haired giants after having enough of being eaten by these crazy giant people. And they were never seen again. That was the last. Oh.
Do you know what? It's funny you say that because I don't know if you guys have heard that there was an incident, or when they went to when they went to Afghanistan to look for Bin Laden, apparently a bunch of soldiers found a cave, and what they found outside the cave was all military gear, military clothing, guns, all scattered about. Then what one person came out, I don't think they revealed their name, but what they said is that a humongous being, a giant, came out of the cave and literally immediately stabbed through a spear and killed one of them immediately. And he was said to have long dark ginger hair, a massive beard, in a region of about 15 feet tall. He sounds exactly like one of them. According to the reports and the data that we found online and here and there and everywhere, they've all got 6 toes, they've got 6 fingers as well, and they tend to have double rows of teeth.
That's right, yeah.
Which ties in with the archaeology of these beings that have been found and subsequently covered up by the Smithsonian Institute.
Yes.
So they're the ones out there. I'm just going to shut that window. I'll be right back, people.
So two expeditions to Lovelock Cave were made in 1924. They found more tools and all sorts of other artefacts, including giant sandals, which today's size 27 shoe.
27 or 37?
27. Also then bought by the Smithsonians, and then taken from other museums, and other artefacts were taken by Smithsonians also. All these artefacts fell into obscurity until 1984, when they were then studied again in the University of Tucson, Arizona.
Tucson, I think.
Tucson, that's it.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah.
See, I can't read.
No, you can. You can't.
Yeah. And they turned out to be more than 2,000 years old.
That's what I find really fascinating about this is that AI is meant to be beneficial for mankind, right? But you go on any AI search browser, search chat, and you type in, tell me every known incident where giant remains were found archaeologically. And that it always says, this has not been scientifically proven, this has not been validated, this has not been verified. So clearly it appears that all the mainstream, at least, AI chat search browsers are all filtered through the mainstream sort of world government narrative, where they're making it seem like it's conspiracy secondary information and not really worthy of your attention. But I mean, if I just sort of take a quick look at some of the stuff that I found, so these are some of the incidences that have been reported by everyday people going back a long way. And the oldest one I've got on this document is 1672. So in 1672, at the Chateau de Pau, Pyrenees Mountain in France, a guy called John Baptiste Colbert found the remains of a 13-foot tall giant. And this was at the giant. It's called the Giant of the Pyrenees. So that was found. That was dug up. You know, these people aren't. Then there's no point in them making it up, because other people have seen it. Other people have come across it and helped them dig it up and stuff. You know, they say that it's not scientifically proven. It's not been verified, but clearly they're going through the Smithsonian filter, where they're just covering everything up.
I mean, regardless of everything, you know, it's just kind of strange that it's within our human mind. Everyone, you know, has always spoke about giants, and you know, why is it in so many stories and many things?
For example, I've got a book here called Fabulous Creatures and Magical Beings, and obviously it's going to come across like folklore and tales, and you've got Jack and the Beanstalk. You've got the Gigantomachia Baedecaris. More prevalent in the modern day era is you've got the Giant's Causeway in Ireland. And the mystical kind of story that they say that there was two giants, one come from Scotland, one come from Ireland, and there was originally a bridge. They had a massive battle, and the
name of that giant.
And the bridge got destroyed. Yeah, I did have the name of that giant at some point. Yeah.
It is. What if I can find it?
No, it's all good. Take your time. I mean, even if you just collage together everything you can find, like we're trying to do here, there is an almost unlimited amount of data.
It's infinite. Like,
yeah. What was the number on that documentary you watched? You're watching a documentary on Amazon. Hang on a sec, you got that remote there? Yeah, it's actually on in the background now. I'm going to find the name of it. It's called...
I actually think I put it in my notes.
By William J. Meister.
Right, let's see. It's called A Race of Giants. And what I find convenient about this is that...
Finn McCall.
Finn
McCall.
Yeah, that's right.
Irish giant.
I remember that name.
That built the causeway, apparently.
Okay.
He built it so that he could get to Scotland to fight this other giant.
Interesting.
But then I haven't seen any more on that, or heard of the fight of the giants.
The funny thing is that Giant's Causeway is, not to branch off into another topic, but it's actually based on one of the, what they call carbon-based trees. And it's the stump of a carbon-based tree, and I don't know if you come across this. If you see old mountains, for example, where the top is clean cut, it's just been clean cut. And you know, and the theory goes, or the conspiracy as they're going to call it, is that basically highly advanced technology in a past time straight up lopped the top of these mountains. That's why you've got the Archuleta Mesa, which is like a mountain in the desert of America, and it's just flat, clear flat on top. Now, how does that...
Same as the Devil's Mound.
Yeah, Devil's Mound. I mean, it might even be the same one.
There's quite a lot. I've got quite a lot here.
Devil's Mound, yeah.
We could probably put up on screen.
Yeah, we can get stuff up. Yeah, edit it in.
Yeah, I mean, there's things dating back not so distant, to be honest. I mean, I've got some things from 1895. A 2.5 metre mummy was found in San Diego. The Smithsonian's set off and offered $500 for it. In today's money, that's $14,000.
Wow! It's not even that much, really, is it?
And in 1908, when they were asked about its whereabouts, they claimed that after tests it was a hoax, so they destroyed it.
Ah, right.
Why would you destroy a hoax rather than prove that it was a hoax?
Okay.
So that was just destroyed.
So no proof of that one.
Right. Another mummy found in Spiro Mountains, Oklahoma, in 1930. Smithsonian's and others wanted to buy this, and none of these, including the skeleton 2 metre 10 inches, is exhibited in any museum.
Right.
So, I mean, there's quite a lot taken that were seen by many, that yet none exist today.
See, I mean, there is one incident in fairly recent times. So I believe there was one discovered in 2023 around the region of Iraq, which back in the day was Mesopotamia, and that the main city or the main area was Samaria, and the main city of Samaria was called Uruk. and the king of Uruk was known as Gilgamesh. Now this was passed down, you know, like Jack and the Beanstalk. It was passed down like a fable, an urban myth, an urban legend. But the funny thing is, they discovered a tomb with a man wearing royal garb, whatever you want to call it, royal clothing, headwear, the whole shebang. And he was about 15 feet tall. It's on camera. What happened is that this being was discovered exactly where Gilgamesh, the mythological creature, was said to be buried, underneath the Euphrates River. So not only did they find a burial mound and a highly intricately designed burial location under the Euphrates River, but they also found an intricately carved coffin with a sort of 13 to 15 or 16 feet king with a crown and everything inside of it. It's been filmed, it's out there, we'll get pictures up. So the funny thing is, that was found in 2003. It's actually said to be one of the real reasons why, while America, and sadly England as well, where we come from, went there, and soldiers have come out, some publicly, some are afraid for their lives, for their families, so they don't want to talk about it too much, but some soldiers have actually come out and said the main reason we went there is the first thing we did when we got there, we bum rushed all the museums, we took all the artefacts from ancient Sumeria that were of any pertinence to...
They knew exactly what they were looking for.
They knew what they were looking for.
They left specific items. They left gold artifacts and all riches and other stuff, and they took specific artifacts that they knew exactly what they were going in for.
And you know, something's wrong. It's a whole world of deceit. We're going into Iraq to get artifacts, not to get anything but artifacts. That was the most important thing, they said.
But which artifacts?
I don't know. They just said artifacts. There were things in Iraq that were sold that we had to go get. Bush wanted those artifacts. It was very important.
Did we get them, and if so, where did they go?
We got them. They said they got everything they needed from that country.
Where is it?
I don't know. We have it.
See, if you're trying to cover up that you're doing something like that, you'd steal the gold as well. But the universe was with us in a way to show they weren't even there for the riches. They were there for the heritage, for the secret history, right? Gilgamesh is on video, yeah? We will put it up on this video for you to see for yourselves, pictures, footage.
I like the way Jack and the Beanstalk ties into the man eating giants with two sets of teeth.
Has he got two sets of teeth as well?
Jack and the Beanstalk.
Has it?
The giants in the story of Jack and the Beanstalk. I'm not sure if they've got two sets of teeth, but it's funny how they eat people.
Yeah, they do, yeah. And they're massive.
In the same way that, you know, these giants were eating people. It just seems really strange that it was all covered up, you know. After the Civil War in America, the Smithsonian's created a policy of exclusion of any evidence of foreign influence in the Americas before the arrival of Christopher Columbus. So, anything after that's allowed, anything before that has to be taken and covered.
Yeah.
For some reason.
Yeah, well, like I say, the American army went in. The first thing they did was they secured the potential remains of Gilgamesh the king, and it looks exactly like the depictions of Gilgamesh in all the ancient scrolls, the Sumerian tablets,
the statues even. The
statues, the Epic of Gilgamesh story, it looked identical. It looks identical. And the first thing they did was find that. In fact, when some of Hillary Clinton's emails were publicly disclosed, one of them was like, oh, did they, something to the degree of, did they sort out that thing with the Nephilim in Iraq? That's one of Hillary Clinton's emails.
Yeah, I've seen that.
I saw that today on something.
Yeah,
Rumble, I think it was on. Yeah,
crazy stuff.
So,
yeah, strange to have that in an email from someone of such authority.
So, in fact, you do your thing, man. I want to dig up something in Genesis to see how many times the sons of God.
Well, I mean, even Abraham Lincoln wrote about Niagara Falls when he stood and looked at Niagara Falls, and he said, "The eyes of extinct giants whose bones fill the mounds of America have gazed on these as ours do now." And that was written by Abraham Lincoln.
Why would he say that?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
Maybe that was before the Smithsonian had a chance to intervene and take over.
Yeah, but I mean, there's even accounts of Vikings. There's a captain called Leif Erikson, landed in Newfoundland, what's now known as Newfoundland, encountered hairy beasts like men. You know, despite Vikings already being around 7 foot tall. Anyway,
yeah.
You know, if you wasn't a large man, you wouldn't have been a Viking. You'd have been a farmer. So they were already large people. For them to say that these people were hairy beast-like men is they must have been way larger than 7 feet.
Yeah, why would you even talk
Yeah,
about
why
them?
would a 7 foot
Yeah,
warrior be speaking about beasts?
yeah, and
You know?
he's 7 foot tall. So for him to say a 7 foot
Most
man,
Vikings are around, the high end of 6 feet, and
they do say
7
that
feet.
people from the Nordic regions like Norway and what's it? Not Slovakia, sorry. Nordic. There's
Like
a
Denmark and places like that.
places like that. Generally they're quite tall people. Right, for example, so I've just asked an AI browser how many times the Nephilim are mentioned explicitly in the passages of the Bible. The first reference in Genesis 6:1-4. And it says, the Nephilim were a product of copulation between divine beings and human women, resulting in great warriors and giants. The term Nephilim is also mentioned in Numbers 13:33, where the spies sent by the Israelites to explore Canaan report seeing Nephilim there.
I do remember reading this actually.
Yeah,
Jose.
I mean, eventually there's going to be some crossover, right?
Yeah.
Where
Oh, for sure.
yeah,
For sure.
that's why Chad Bundy primarily looked at the Americans, and myself, Reginald Coverage, I looked at the rest of the world. And tried
Well,
to,
anything that's
relevant.
found in the Americas has all been from Europeans anyway.
Yeah, oh yeah,
You
that's
know,
a valid point. Well, human speaking, anyway.
Yeah. Well, basically.
So what's interesting is that obviously you might have heard of the Book of Enoch, which is said to be an apocrypha. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah.
Which basically means a book that is kind of tied in with Scripture. It's kind of to a degree tied in with Christianity at times, and not included in the New Testament after the Council of Nicaea around the end of the fourth century AD. So what's interesting is the Book of Enoch. I mean, it mentions Enoch a couple of times or whatever in the Bible, but in the Book of Enoch, the Nephilim are mentioned many times. But I will say that every time they're mentioned, they are spoke of in a very negative light. So whoever wrote this,
Man-eating beasts.
yeah. So there's either another deeper conspiracy where certain types of people or those in control perhaps don't want you to know that the giants might even not have been bad. They may well have been, because predominantly it does say they ate people and stuff like that. But the general narrative within the Book of Enoch is that they were very malevolent and negative people. So I'll give you a couple of examples from the Book of Enoch. So 1 Enoch 7:3-6. The Nephilim are described as the offspring of the Watchers and human women. Now the Watchers could refer to the archons, which is mentioned in sort of ancient Greek mythology. Also, a lot of the time is mentioned in the Nag Hammadi creation stories. They say that a fake god called the Demiurge or Yaldabaoth came about through a sort of cosmic accident. I won't go into it so much, but then he did have powers too, and he sort of created this world, so to speak, but he also created a vast amount of kind of beings, angelic beings. They could be the Watchers or the archons that are meant to be outside of our perception of light, that we can't see them. And basically they sort of rule the world from the ether and the realms of the light spectrum that we can't see. And another funny thing is that the God of the Bible is called Yahweh. You know, the original, the Old Testament. Yahweh or Yah is actually one of the descendants of the Demiurge, which is, like I say, the malevolent God that, according to the Gnostics, created this world. So there are even people out there, and my good friend came across it today saying that Lucifer was considered the bearer of light, and this guy who, you know, he's sort of into his own degree of Satanism, but he thinks there's rational ideas in it. I'm not down with Satanism personally, but he believes that Lucifer was actually a being of light and was a good person, and that the God in the Bible in the Old Testament is actually a demon.
It's all back to front. They've switched it around.
I mean, yeah, exactly that.
But then, they're reading these books. You've got the Apocryphas, all taken out of these books.
Gospel of Thomas.
They're all taken out. Well, how can you follow a book that isn't even complete?
Yeah.
Just to support someone else's narrative of, that it's a made-up story now, because they've put the bits in it that they just want you to believe.
Yeah, exactly that, mate. Exactly that.
So there's a tribe in America called the Tlascalans. Tlascalans, or however it's pronounced. They were rivals to the Aztecs, and they defeated a race of giants And the Spanish took refuge and wives of these people when they arrived, and they showed the Spanish the remains of a giant that they'd killed, and a guy called Bernal Diaz del Castillo wrote it in his diaries and said one femur bone was as tall as he was.
Oh my God.
And they sent it to the King of Spain to see.
Wow.
And then no more's been spoke about that.
There we go.
That's also clearly not Smithsonian.
But swept under the carpet.
Swept under the carpet. Yeah, so I mean they were described as white skin, red hair or black hair.
Red hair again.
So there was apparently two separate tribes of giant there. Another tribe, a Native American tribe called the Chippewa tribe, fought against the giants, and there was a chief actually. I'm not sure if he was part of that tribe, but there was a chief called Chief Tuscaloosa, and he was supposed to be a black-haired giant also. So
7'5".
yeah, and he
7'5".
the Spanish killed all of his people to take any kind of
Remnants.
artifact or remnants of what they had.
Yeah.
But that guy's body was never found, despite thousands of Indians being dead.
Yeah, he's probably sitting in a warehouse somewhere next to Gilgamesh.
Of course.
I wonder who looks better nowadays.
He was probably one of the most important chiefs, in their history there. So,
what's interesting as well is that there's an accepted category of beings, accepted scientifically speaking, labelled as Gigantopithecus blacki, considered a hominoid-like being, and believed to have been as tall as 10 feet. They were said to have lived during an era known as the Pleistocene epoch. Many teeth and jawbones fitting of such beings have been found in areas of Southeast Asia, especially Vietnam, Thailand and China. So I wonder if this Gigantopithecus blacki, maybe they're the giants with black hair.
quite possibly.
Maybe that's why they're called the
Possibly,
blackies. Yeah.
Quite possibly. But so in 1911, in Nevada caves, I'm guessing that's going to be Lovelock Cave again, they found strange artefacts and mummies. So they were reported to the University of California, and then excavations began. Red-haired mummies. Yep. Artefacts remain, yet the mummies have vanished. And the university just say there was never a detailed list. There's never a detailed list of what was found.
Yeah, so, a bit like there's no detail of how JFK
in a university.
Yeah, we believe you.
Yeah, they were professional archaeologists.
Yeah, it's too convenient, man.
Yeah.
Like, how can you have such negligence in your job to that degree?
Yeah,
that's just foolish.
And yet, even though this, none of this was listed and whatever, second expeditions to Lovelock Cave were made again in 1924, and they found more tools, duck decoys. So they were luring ducks to hunt ducks and things like that. So they were using decoy animals and things like this. But they were not accepted by the Smithsonian or American museums at all. And none of it was... Even though there was a second expedition to the same cave, they didn't accept any of the artefacts. So
wow.
Yeah. And they ended up in a small museum in Arizona, apparently. And then they fell into obscurity until 1984. And then there was, like I say, studied again in the University of Tucson. But I'm pretty sure I covered that a little while ago.
No, that's cool. That's cool. That's good. It's helping it sink in for me.
So another guy. Go on. Carry on.
Yeah, no, go ahead. Are you still on that one?
No.
So I'll give you another example of sort of giant remains that have been found. So we're just spitting it out. We're just putting it all out there. Everything we come across. So. In 1934, there was a newspaper called The Daily News of Calcutta, or the event happened in Calcutta. And basically what it was, there was a report of a 31-foot giant was found by a local man washing in a river. The giant was protruding from the riverbank in a village called Pantiha, India. The legs alone were said to be 10 foot long, much like the femur bone that he was just talking about. 10 foot long legs alone, and it took 4 people to remove the humongous remains. The skeleton was soon relocated to an actual place called the Palace of the Chief of Daya State. So I need to follow that up and to see if that's still about, if that's still talked about in the area. Here's another little tidbit for you. England's publicly known largest man ever, Sorry, I jogged the camera there. England's publicly known largest man ever was called John Middleton of Lancashire, which is up north, who stood at a whopping 9'3".
Wow.
Now,
Wow.
nowadays, people that are very large or 8 foot, 7 foot, they're called. Generally, they're suffering from
Called gigantism.
gigantism, right? So, in a way, there could be truth to that, because if giant DNA is so different to humans, and clearly it is, then it must be a little bit of a hybridization that doesn't quite work to a degree in certain circumstances. So maybe gigantism is relevant, because maybe the genetics don't quite click together and there's a bit of a malfunction there, because people grow to. There was a really tall guy with a walking stick and he had a massive sort of bit of shoe added to his shoe so he could walk properly, and I think he died at the age of 30 or underneath.
I think it's funny they count gigantism as a disease, or
It might be if the genetics can't merge, but
quite possibly.
What about when there's ones where clearly it's a fully fledged giant, or one in the region of 9 feet who looked healthy, lived to the age of 50, 60, 70. He didn't have gigantism, he was fine. Or she.
I mean, moving out of the Americas, I know I was going to stick to the Americas, but
That's all right.
I was looking into Marco Polo. So he describes when he on his trip to Zanzibar, when he was circumnavigating the globe, mapping the world.
Yeah. Another topic.
He describes the people there of having the stature of giants and abnormally strong due to their immense size, and claims they could carry a load big enough for 5 men.
Wow.
That was described, on one trip as he was mapping the world. So.
Did you ever come across that video? Yeah, and it was AI generated, and I think somebody's request was, show me exactly how the pyramids were built with all known data, and it's quite out there now. It blew up. So basically, in the video, and it was freaky. There was freaky noises, and it was set in ancient Egypt, and it looked quite real at times. And there was humongous people, 3 times the height of regular humans, picking up stone columns and walking along, and there was something eerily. I don't know, there was a bit of truth in there for me, the feeling of it. I could be wrong, but there's something about it, man. It felt kind of real.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, it's quite a large subject when you look right into it. There's another guy called Ferdinand Magellan.
Ah, yeah, he was one of the discoverers of South America.
Yeah, he
explorers.
landed in Patagonia, so the Patagonian giants. So I'm pretty sure, without reading this, there was a story that when they arrived, there was a giant man, naked man, dancing on the beach.
As you do.
As you do. But he sent one of his men to copy the dance to show that they weren't a threat, and the giant had allowed them to sort of visit and wander over. And I think actually they tried to take back 2 giants back with them, but they died on the voyage, apparently.
Cool.
So...
See, I've heard about Magellan plenty of times.
Yeah.
That
15,
story.
20 expeditions.
Yeah, I've never heard that story. So, guys, there is so much data out there now. There's so much data.
Too much.
Like the Gilgamesh find alone, even if it ain't Gilgamesh, it's buried exactly where he was. He looked like a king. He was about 13 feet tall, 15 feet perhaps. It looked exactly like him. And then literally almost that day, the next day or the week after, George Bush Jr. comes on the news, is like, oh, we have to go into Iraq for this and that.
That's
and
funny.
that.
It didn't even decompose really, did it?
Nah, it looked immaculate.
It was really, really strange.
Yeah, it was close. It was at least 80% decent. But and like I say, soldiers have come out and said, first thing we did, we rushed to museums and we took Gilgamesh, or what was said to be a giant Nephilim. It's all out there, guys. I'm
looking into we was talking about Patagonia. I was looking into some of the meanings of the words, and the word Patagon translates to lands of the Bigfoot in Portuguese.
Wow.
Which is quite crazy. And I mean, the tales of those giants, but maintained a hold on European conception of that region for over 300 years.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's some crazy stuff to look at.
Mythical status, right? So the kind of folklore.
Yeah.
Which there's no smoke without fire, mate. Do you know what I mean?
That the mythical status is the fact that it stayed within their conceptions of the region for that amount of time.
Spinning tales when the kids are going to bed,
Crazy.
right? Bedtime stories and cups of cocoa.
There's the story. So Magellan ordered one of his men to mimic the dance of the giant to show that they meant no harm, and the crew approached.
Oh wow, I love it.
Yeah, strange stuff. Really strange stuff. It's all there. I mean, Yeah, we will put links in the description anyway to some of the all of our sources.
Yeah, it's going to take a while. We got a lot of shit here, guys.
Yeah, there's quite a lot. To be honest, there's quite a lot more that I'd like to have gone into. I think it just needs us to do a little bit more research. So I can see a possible part 2 to Giants.
Yeah, maybe
anyway.
you get a part 2 with more structure, perhaps.
Yeah, definitely.
So, now before we go, let me just tell you another couple that have been found and they've been relayed. They've been put in newspapers and local, natives and stuff have spread the stories around. So, in Mount Everest in the Himalayas, on the border of Tibet and Nepal, in 1850, a British explorer named Samuel Tuke come across the remains of a giant that was 19 feet 7 and was called the Giant of the Himalayas. There's another one in the Altai Mountains of the Russia-Mongolia border. A Russian explorer called Grigory Pontonin in 1920 found a 23-foot giant remain.
Jeez.
And it's called the Giant of the Altai Mountains. There's too many, guys.
To be honest, I think I've got quite a lot more in the notes, but it's not detailed enough for me to go into without sort of sitting here and researching, which I don't really want to do during a video. But
no, not at all. I understand, mate. No.
There's too much into this subject to not take, to not listen to it. To not take it in and think, why even now, after all of these hundreds and possibly thousands of years with Gilgamesh, why has giants always been within our minds? Why have we always thought about giants if there was no link or story behind it?
Exactly.
So,
I mean,
the fact that it's in our mind is a crazy thing for me.
Yeah. I mean, there's like, 2 billion Christians in the world? Something like that? 2 billion Christians? They follow the Bible. The very beginning of Genesis, they're talking about the Nephilim, the sons of God. Like, it's in the book that 2 billion people follow. 2 billion people are already into the giants. They don't even realise.
The book that has it all taken out.
Yeah, it has it all taken out. Yeah, except little bits that serve the narrative of controlling the world through ministers, deacons and priests.
Yeah.
When really, sovereignty of self reawakens God within. And that's what the Gospel of Thomas told you about. Which is quite fascinating. But that's a whole nother topic, people.
that turns you away from religion. It says religion is bad.
Pretty much. And in it he says, I am not a divider. That's a key one, mate. So look, I'll touch on a couple of little bits from the Book of Enoch. If there's anything else you want to say, or we can wrap it up soonish, mate.
No, we'll wrap it up. I said, I've got quite a lot more in the notes that need a lot more research, mate. So I don't really want to go into it not knowing what I'm even talking about.
No, best to go in prepared, right? So a couple of last bits out of the Book of Enoch. So 1 Enoch 7:1-6, and then 8:3-4. It says the Nephilim are accused of corrupting humanity with their evil ways, teaching them to make swords and spears, and introducing them to idolatry or idol worship and immorality. Then another one, 1 Enoch 10:4-6 and 18:1-16. The Nephilim are punished by God for their wickedness, and some are thrown into the abyss while others are imprisoned in the earth.
Imprisoned in the earth, exactly
Inside
like
the
one of
earth.
the stories.
That's why they live in caves.
Capture them in the cave and sit in the cave.
Exactly.
They're imprisoned within the earth, within the mountains.
And it's a big topic. We probably can't get into it, but inner earth, or Shambhala, as it's called in Tibet. The inner earth, where there's meant to be all different types of beings, but obviously, the chance of anyone getting in there about getting the head lopped off by some government agent is another thing, people. But I believe it even says somewhere in the Book of Enoch that the great flood, or the deluge, if you like, wiped them out. And
that also happened in the Epic of Gilgamesh.
Click, sink, full circle. Brilliant.
Great stuff.
Call it a day there?
We'll call it a day.
Yeah,
Peace
sweet.
out.
Chad Bundy and Reginald coverage. We'll be back, people. Thanks for watching.
Don't forget to like and subscribe.